what happens when chlorine enters your lungs, it reacts with water to create hydrochloric acid, and that effectively starts dissolving your lungs. And that's the kind of damage that will stay with you for a very, very long time. You simply don't get the same kind of terror that you would get using, say, conventional bombs as you do using chemical weapons. Because there is a network of plane spotters across Syria, we have reports that two helicopters left an airbase to the northeast of Douma, and then flew over to Douma, and then were observed over Douma from about 7 p.m. to 7:30 p.m. local time. Those kind of helicopters, which are Mi-8s, are usually associated with dropping of barrel bombs and also chlorine bombs as well. So these helicopters likely dropped at least 2 munitions, possibly more. One was found at location 2, the one on the terrace, and one was found at location 4, which had crashed through the ceiling and onto a bed. Chlorine it's heavier than air, so it tends to go lower. So a lot of the immediate actions people would take is to try and run into a building and then run up to a roof in order to get higher than the chlorine gas to escape it. But in this case, at location 2, the chlorine canister was on the roof and was discharging its contents directly into the building. So when people were running up, they were running towards that chlorine canister and towards the chlorine. So they thought they were taking shelter, but actually what they were doing was running to their deaths. When the chlorine cylinder impacted onto the terrace and started discharging its contents into the building acted as a chamber, concentrating that gas. Because there may have also been a chlorine canister outside the street, the entire street itself as well may have been covered in chlorine gas. And so for the vast majority of people, it wouldn't have been possible to know where that chlorine was coming from. They would have heard a crash and then would have known that there was chlorine in the air, but that's it. They wouldn't have known where to run, especially if they'd gone outside and the street itself was covered in chlorine gas too. Where do you go in that kind of situation? So effectively they were trapped in a building which effectively been turned into an improvised gas chamber. In terms of using these kind of chemical weapons, they've been a part of the Syrian regime armoury for a very long time, and they're actually very useful. The Syrian regime's strategy for the majority of the Syrian conflict has been to surround and then besiege areas, and then force populations into those areas, besiege them until they can't take it anymore, and then they'll go in, say, okay, we'll let you go, but don't fight anymore, this area now becomes ours. Chemical weapons play a part in that strategy. So when you besiege an area, you need to beat the people in that area into submission. Chemical weapons attacks are uniquely able to target civilians because militaries tend to be more prepared. They are absolutely indiscriminate. You cannot work out precisely where they're going to land and who they're going to affect. And as such, they instill a terror in people and have ever since.